We have breaking news this morning. The Supreme Court has delivered Donald Trump officially another rightful, legal, constitutional loss. What is that loss? And why did the Supreme Court deliver this loss to him? We will find that out in today's video from a divided Supreme Court. This legal breaking reporting is by CNN. The article is titled, Supreme Court Rejects Trump's Request to Keep Billions in Foreign Aid Frozen. And the article reads, a divided Supreme Court on Wednesday rejected the Trump administration's request to keep billions of dollars in foreign aid approved by Congress frozen. However, the court did not immediately say whether the money must be released, allowing the White House to continue to dispute the issue in lower courts. The ruling was a 5-4 decision. The order was unsigned, but four conservative justices dissented: Clarence Thomas, Neil Gorsuch, and Brett Kavanaugh. That put 5 justices in the majority: Chief Justice John Roberts, Amy Coney Barrett, Elena Kagan, Sonia Sotomayor, and Ketanji Brown Jackson. The majority noted that given a court-ordered deadline to spend the money last week had already passed, the lower court should, quote, clarify what obligations the government must fulfill to ensure compliance with the temporary restraining order, end quote. A strongly worded dissent. Alito wrote that he was, quote, stunned, quote, by the court's decision to permit the lower court judge to order the administration to unfreeze the foreign aid at issue in the case. Alito added, quote, a federal court has many tools to address a party's supposed non-feasance self-aggrandizement of its jurisdiction is not one of them, end quote. While the ruling was a 5-4 decision, it was, quote, extremely modest, quote, said Steve Vedic, CNN Supreme Court analysis and professor at Georgetown University Law Center. Quote, The unsigned order does not actually require the Trump administration to immediately make up to $2 billion in foreign aid payments. It merely clears the way for the district court to compel those payments. Presumably, if it is more specific about the court's contracts that have to be honored, end quote. Vladeck said, quote, the fact that for justices, nevertheless, dissented vigorously from such a decision is a sign that the court is going to be divided, perhaps along these exact lines in many of the more impactful Trump-related cases that are already on their way, end quote. The appeal raised to the High Court within days, exceedingly fast by the federal judiciary's standards. It is the second case to reach the justices dealing with Trump's moves to consolidate power within the executive branch and dramatically reshape the government after taking power in January. Illegally. My editorial edition. At the center of the case is billions in foreign aid from the State Department and the U.S. Agency for International Development that Trump froze in January as he sought to clamp down spending and bring those agencies in line with his agenda. Several nonprofit groups that rely on the funding for global health and other programs sued, asserting that the administration's moves usurped the power of Congress to control government spending and violated a federal law that dictates how agencies make decisions. In a brief on Friday, the groups described the administration's actions as having a, quote, devastating, quote, impact. They told the court that funding, quote, advances U.S. interests and aboard and improves, and in many cases, literally saves the lives of millions of people across the globe, end quote. Quote, in doing so, it helps stop problems like disease and instability overseas before they reach our shores, end quote, the group said. U.S. District Judge Amar Ali on February 13th ordered that much of the money continue to flow on a temporary basis while he reviewed the case. Days later, the plaintiffs argued that the administration was defying that order and continuing to block the spending, and Ali then ordered the Trump administration to spend the money at issue by midnight Wednesday. Ali was named to the bench by President Joe Biden. The Trump administration rushed an emergency appeal to the Supreme Court hours before that deadline, urging that the Supreme Court at least pause it for a few days. My editorial edition. The Trump administration is making, quote, substantial efforts, quote, to review payment requests and spend the money the government argued, but it couldn't turn the spigot on fast enough to meet Ali's timeline. So, ladies and gentlemen, they say that they couldn't turn the spigot on fast enough to meet Judge Amar Ali's deadline. That is a bunch of BS. Continuing with the article. The groups that sued have balked at that explanation, arguing that a small number of political appointees within the administration, quote, are refusing to authorize essentially any payments, end quote. The government has not taken any, quote, any meaningful steps to come into compliance, end quote, the groups said. A Supreme Court filing earlier Friday. Roberts, acting alone, gave the administration a brief reprieve on Wednesday, issuing what's known as an, quote, administrative stay, quote, that pushed a pause on the case so that both sides could submit written arguments. The Chief Justice handles emergency cases rising from the Federal Appeals Court in Washington, D.C. Among the groups challenging the freeze are the AIDS Vaccine Advocacy Coalition, a New York-based organization working to spend HIV prevention, and the Global Health Council based in Washington, D.C., which represents other groups that administer health programs. The Trump administration revealed in court filings in the case that it is attempting to terminate more than 90% of USAID foreign aid awards. Quote, in total, 5,800 USAID awards were terminated, and more than 500 USAID awards were retained. Quote, a filing from the administration said, quote, the total ceiling value of the retained awards is appropriately $57 billion, end quote. The filing said. In addition to the USAID award terminations, quote, approximately 4,100 state awards were terminated and approximately 2,700 state awards were retained, end quote, the government told a lower court, referring to the State Department. Aid programs around the world have ground to a halt due to the sweeping funding freeze and review of billions of dollars of assistance. It also comes as the Trump administration has either placed the majority of USAID's workforce on leave or terminated them. On Capitol Hill, Democrats said the ruling shows that Trump's power to freeze spending is not unlimited. Quote, that money has already been appropriated. Things were already in action, and so I think the Supreme Court ruled the right way, and now the administration needs to unfreeze them and allow those contractors and the work to be done, end quote, said Representative Gregory Meeks of New York, the top Democrat on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Representative Pramila Jayapal called it, quote, a very important ruling from, quote, a Trump-dominated court, end quote. Quote, I think it reinforces that Congress has authorization to appropriate money and that people rely on that authorization for those programs, and that when you do the work, you get paid when it's been authorized, end quote, the Washington State Democrat told CNN. Asked if she is confident that the payments will be turned on, Jayapal said she's not confident about anything, and began, quote, but I hope that the Trump administration will pay attention to the Supreme Court. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thankfully, rightfully, legally, and constitutionally, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the ones that are trying to do right in the United States and not screw it up. that is going to do it for today's video in legal breaking analysis reporting. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a rightful win for the rule of law and the Constitution in the United States. If you guys did enjoy this video, please make sure that you like, comment, share, subscribe. A couple things before we end today's video. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to stay up to date on all legal breaking analysis reportings, please do follow me on my social medias that'll be linked down below, along with the very important, vital news article link to this breaking news reporting. This shows that Donald Trump is not above the law, rightfully, legally, and constitutionally speaking. Another way you guys can make sure that you're staying up to date is by hitting the bell icon that is right next to the subscribe button down below on the right hand side. And please make sure that you guys hit the all icon rather than hitting the personalized icon. That way you're notified of every single breaking analysis reporting video that I post to the channel. Lastly, ladies and gentlemen, please help me reach the overall channel goal of 110 plus subscribers. The reason why I am saying 110 plus subscribers is because after we reach the goal of 110 plus subscribers, we have more subscribers to reach after we reach the goal of 110 plus subscribers. Please stay safe, ladies and gentlemen, and I look forward to talking to you guys in the next legal breaking reporting. And I will see you guys then.